Good morning. It's Sunday morning. Can't believe how quickly February is moving by. I trust you're having a good morning. I unfortunately developed a cough overnight. Had to get up and take some cough medicine, which I always keep on hand, which I very rarely use. So if I cough, I apologize in advance because it's right here today. Anyhow, I got thinking about what I was going to talk about today, and in the description, if you have read it, it's about Sundays being a day given to spiritual or prayer or thinking at least about a bigger power. And I was raised when the time I was 3, going off to Sunday school. 2 older girls took me off to a Sunday school. And then when I was about 10, I changed churches and went to another church for several years. And I was always wanting to know about God. And I wanted to know what and how and who God was and how did it work and all those things, even when I was really tiny. And I would be considering all these thoughts. And I know that's not how most people think, but it got me thinking that this is Sunday Thought was designed to give people to think about their lives. And so most of you who are regular on the channel know that I have on Monday nights mental mind treatment, which is a type of prayer that I learned, and I call it mental mind treatment. So it does not conflict a little bit with the people I studied with because I'm not part of that organization anymore. But anyway, prayer to me has been very important in my life. I have used it for others many thousands of times. I've used it for myself really, really regularly. And every now and again, like everybody else, I've dropped away for a little bit more than I maybe should have. I don't like shoulds, but it's like, but I always come back to it. And I got thinking about how do you pray? How do you do it regularly? And if you pray, who to? Because to me, it doesn't matter the name, because over the years, the name changed. Now, I still talk about God because it numerologically adds up to a 9, which is all things. So I always think, well, it's all things. But to myself, it's an absolute loving power. It's love, and it really is all about love. And I always say, if you listen to me on Monday nights, excuse the cough, that I know that there is one power, and I truly don't mind what name. I've taught just about every religious person, or I should say sect, awareness, or whatever. I have not had a Jewish student over the years, but I've had Sikhs, I've had Muslims, I've had many other things that live in our area. Sorry, shouldn't say things. I beg your pardon about that. That's why I prefer longer talks than shorts. I mentioned last week I was going to experiment. I've spent this week experimenting with shorts. Frustrating because I write it out a little bit and then it looks like I'm reading, and then it seems every time, because I'm using my cell phone. I actually tried one on yesterday on the computer. It did not come out well. But it's like I look at my pictures as they come up and I got my mouth open and I'm thinking, but I waited and I thought it would be anyway. So I guess I have an open mouth when I'm talking all the time. And I must admit, I've spent a lot of my life talking one way or another. I got chastised for it as a child, actually, because I overtalked. But anyway, it's been very good to me over the years. And my voice always works. May cough, but it works. Anyway, my question is really for this day is, do you acknowledge there is a power in yourself, in your life? When things get challenging, do you ask? And I don't mean plead, like the early ways I learned how to pray was about pleading. Please, man, please, can you help me, please? And it was like I was like begging. And but I was searching for a way that I could do a prayer method that was workable. And for those, as I say, if you listen on Monday nights, you'll hear that in the prayers that I do, which is treatments. I call them mental mind treatments, in brackets, prayers. But because I also add the information that comes through me, whether I'm channeling, whether I'm just aware of what's happening is that they're not consistent with how I originally learned either. In fact, that's one of the reasons I had trouble being in an organization, because I was a psychic. And I was lucky enough to be able to go as far as I did because of that. But I wasn't willing to give up my psychicness, because that, and my philosophies that I'd learned along the way. And so, anyway, this is really the question to you. I'm just going to have a drink of water. I think for myself, and you have to contemplate this, that it is important to recognize there is a force. I don't care what you call that force, as long as it's honorable to the force. I have come to believe that the earth plays a huge part in our spirituality and in the feeling of love on this planet. And that's only because I've visited and seen other planets through looking at other people's lives and their journeys of all where they have come from. This planet needs to be honored. This planet needs to be appreciated. And I know in my life, I probably haven't appreciated it as much as I needed to have, as I look back. I was born in a beautiful world and a beautiful country. I came to this beautiful country, Canada, and the beauty I have to drive through the Rockies at least once every 3 years. I've driven through them many, many, many times. I live on the west. You have to go east to go through the Rockies, but they're beautiful. I've been in the Americans ones when I was traveling with my children and husbands. Beautiful, beautiful. This country's the land that we live on, but we often don't appreciate it. We don't give thanks. We don't contribute. If you're aware of any native philosophies, which I've become aware of as the years have gone by through people I know and clients and students that I've had, is an appreciation. And they, of course, always use the tobacco to, a person who really follows faith uses tobacco when they want to honor, because tobacco was really big and way back in the original ways of the villages. But you have to understand differences, I think. I think that part of knowing that you're part of a whole is that you appreciate differences. And what I hear a lot when I'm listening to news or when I'm listening sometimes to people talking, if you're a little different for whatever, if you dress differently, if you look differently, and if you believe differently, all of a sudden you're not right. There's something, that you're not accepted. Let's put it that way. And really, I don't know whether I had a dream last night or whether I was just thinking, but I really became aware often of how we do not accept differences, how we want everything to look the same. And that's my concern, to be honest, as we look into the future, and some things that I've seen and some things I've read that other people have seen when we look into the future, is that we're made into little regiments of just yes sir, no sir. And our personality, we don't have one. We only have a yes or no sir. And I can see that occur beginning to come in. And I'm at the end of my journey in this life. If you could, I don't know how many more years I have, but I'm sure I have a few more. But it's like a lot of people are just beginning, and they never have thought about how differences make a difference. If you're looking at a garden, and I have seen some beautiful gardens in my life, and I've been in beautiful gardens in different countries because I've had the privilege of traveling. And when you see a garden set out in beautiful, I'm just thinking about English gardens. Gardening was really big in England, and they make beautiful gardens full of flowers and vegetables, but the flowers, that's what we all are. We're a flower. How are we flowering? Where do we get our nutrition from? A flower draws its nutrition not only from the earth, but from the air and the rain. The rain waters the earth, the nutrients come in. And when you look at one garden, at least be home gardens, you'll find there's all different kinds of flowers. I know I have my, they're not baskets, but I have things outside in the summer. and that I put flowers in. I mostly have one kind because the deer don't like them too much when we have deers. I have it inside a big high fence so the deer can't get to them. But they give me great pleasure as I watch them grow. I usually get them in May, and they're there till September. It's like, where do you get, I'm just going to switch the subject a little bit. Where do you get the pleasure, and where do you think it comes from? Where does all this come from? And the destruction that goes on with our having our soil stay good, having our wood, we get a lot of forest fires here. And I have seen now how some forest fires are set by people. In fact, my friend and I were traveling last summer, and we came past it's a little town, and the mountains behind it had these streaks of fire. Now, I've watched fires happening because we have a lot here, and they usually go tree to tree, and they burst into flame as they move. This didn't happen that way. It was all along the ground, and it was done in rows. And I said to my friend, these are being set. When we came back the same way about 4 days later, there was still smoke. But it's like, why do people want to destroy the beauty of our planet? I do not understand that personally. And so how can we do that? And to me, it's like we pray. We pray to the one force that loves, and as much as they can do, because they can only get into the thinking patterns if you're open to feel, to be inspired, and to know all the different things. So the question today is, how do you pray? If you do pray. And if you pray, who to? Because unless you're clear and definitive within that, the thoughts, because really prayer is thought. And the thought that goes out is truly about, you want it delivered so that you can embrace and create your lives. We don't live through lives without stuff happening, whether we create it or it's created for us, because it's kind of a two-way street sometimes, because we're not hermit, most of us anyway, with you two, are not hermits. And so we interact with society. And it's like, we want to know that everything is in accord, but stuff happens. And so how do we cope with that? How do we get the strength? How do we get an awareness of what we can do? So Monday nights, 7:00, when I go live, and I do prayers for people, and usually we have a band that seems to come on all the time, and I love that. But new people are always welcome to experiment with how this works and what you can gain from it, and how you can begin to see a different perspective can change your life. So anyway, think about, do you pray? And if you do, who to? And are you finding peace with that? Are you finding resolution? Are you finding ideas of how to handle the stuff that comes up in life? Because if you're a human being in this world, there's going to be stuff at times. Not all the time, but sometimes. Blessings for this day, and may you have a good one. And I will be back Monday night with mental mind treatments, and again on Wednesday with Norma Talks. And I may do a few more shorts. I'm still learning on that. It's time now to learn editing. On goes the adventure. Bye for now. Lots of love.